Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm really excited for you to be joining us on this live broadcast. My name is Jennifer Rogers, and I'm the Director of Development and Community Engagement at Mounds Park Academy. If you're joining us today, then I assume you know that we have a really exciting program to share with you. I am really pleased to share on behalf of our MPA Legacy Society Committee that we are welcoming a really special guest and a wonderful presentation about wealth management and giving, philanthropy, and how to really advance and support causes that you care about and you want to make an impact on. So we have a very, very special speaker and guest. Not only is our speaker an expert in these areas, but even more importantly, he is a Mounds Park Academy alum. So I'm really pleased to introduce Ty Johnston, who is from the MPA class of 2004. He will be our presenter today. Ty is a wealth manager, so he works directly with his clients to create and maintain really customized financial plans that address all aspects of a healthy financial life. So that includes investments and tax planning, risk management, retirement, employee benefits, estate planning. It just goes on and on. So I'm so excited for you to hear what he has to say. As I mentioned, he graduated from MPA in 2004, and since then he's been a really active part of our alumni community. He really loves visiting campus when we're able to be open to visitors in a non-pandemic time. He's been involved with a number of volunteer initiatives, including our MPA mentorship program. He loves getting back in touch with his classmates and his former teachers and administrators. And so we're just so thrilled to have him as a part of this presentation and just in general in our alumni community. So I do want to share that following Ty's presentation, which will start here in just a minute, we're going to have the opportunity for questions and answers. So you'll be able to post as a comment any questions you have throughout the presentation. We will have a really special guest come on at the end, Melissa Peacock, who is a current MPA parent and a parent of alumni students herself, and the chair of our Legacy Society Committee, who will help to moderate that question and answer section, and we'll wrap things up at the end. So again, feel free to post questions. We would ask that maybe you just hang on to any personal financial questions or anything about estate planning that is really specific to you. We're happy, of course, to get you in touch with Ty afterwards if you do have those more personal tax or legal questions. But he does want me to give you that disclaimer, right? He's not a lawyer, so let's just keep all of that out of all of this. But please do ask any questions that you have about his presentation or wealth management and plan giving opportunities that he shares. So I would like to, again, just take a quick second to recognize the Legacy Society Committee who has made this possible. We have a really wonderful group of volunteers, including, as I mentioned, Melissa Peacock, who is the chair of that committee. We also have Jennifer Holloway, Nan Etzweiler, and Carlin Myers, who are all either current parents or parents of alumni at MPA and give tirelessly of their time to help us advance all things MPA and all things Legacy Society. So with that, I am really pleased to turn it over to Ty Johnston. And if you've got questions that we can help you with afterwards, you're welcome to reach out to us in the development office personally. You can email me, contact us through our website. We're happy to help. But in the meantime, please enjoy Ty's presentation and post your questions anytime and stick around at the end for that Q&A. So Ty, I will turn it over to you to start your presentation and kick things off here.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Let me make sure this, oops. All of a sudden now I can't share it, sorry. It worked a second ago. Where did it go? Great start, Ty. Okay. Well, once again, thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate the opportunity. As always, happy to be a part of the MPA community, proud to be a part of the MPA community. And even though I don't do this all the time, I always love giving back and taking part in various events with fellow alumni, as well as current students, faculty. Jennifer said I'm an expert. I certainly am not an expert in everything, but in my line of work, I happen to deal with clients, individuals, families, business owners, relating to tax advice, estate planning advice, excuse me, and strategies to execute an overall estate plan with elements like tax taken into account. I have a team of people around me that are CPAs, attorneys, financial planners, investment managers, all these people coming together on a team working for the client on behalf of the client to achieve the objectives. So the hope today is that I can, one, make a few plugs for MPA and the MPA Legacy Society, but as well just have sort of a casual conversation about information around topics, tools, vehicles that can be used that I see in practice with folks to accomplish an objective, specifically around legacy planning, planned giving, estate planning. So a little bit about me. As was mentioned, I was in the class of 2004. I also have three sisters, all of whom also went to Mounds Park Academy. So the bloodline runs deep. I know my parents have been involved with the school for a very long time and are the reason that I went to Mounds Park. But I guess one fun fact about me is that I was a part of the initial class that started getting laptops back in the day. So I think it was 2001. My freshman class, obviously junior, sophomore, junior, seniors got them. My freshman class was the first to take part in the laptop program with those old clamshell colored Mac laptops, which I kind of wish I still had. So that's enough about me. Generally speaking, I want to talk today about kind of why give. And Mounds Park promotes this. I believe I'm close. I may be off, but last I checked, to really operate the institution year in, year out, there's a significant cost, right? As you can imagine. And tuition really plays a big part in that, but it certainly does not play the entire part in that. And so as MPA promotes, the donations and the planned giving, such as the annual giving fund, such as the Legacy Society, the endowments, are really there and intended to bridge the gap. So roughly about 81% of the funds brought in from tuition helps to cover those costs, but the remaining 19 to 20% has to be met by giving from parents of alumni, parents of students, alumni, as well as other donors. So really want to make sure that everybody is clear that the tuition, which of course has always seemed to go up, and it has for all these private schools, but in terms of competing and staying afloat, those donations really do play a key role in growing and sustaining the school, the MPA that we love. So that's one of the reasons. And then I also want to be sure and touch on, in terms of giving, when donors are looking to give, how and when they give. I'm gonna kind of start at the current moment in terms of year in, year out giving today that you can act on and make use of, as well as times down the road, specifically to the Legacy Society, an estate gift upon death. And we'll talk about all of the intervals between that, but we'll be sure to cover kind of the sources of giving, the ways in which, the amounts, and then just a very small touch on some of the tax implications with annual exclusions, as well as estate taxes and where that comes into play. We'll be sure to also cover at the end, who benefits in the broader sense of giving, on an individual level, on a family, and then Mounds Park as well. So talk about how we achieve those desired outcomes. So a little bit about the why. I guess in this case, because we're here talking about Mounds Park, I want to be sure that I reinforce that for me, and the benefits I received in attending Mounds Park, as well as my sisters. I certainly hope to see the MPA community grow and be sustainable long into the future. I would hate for there to be a situation down the road where my children or my grandchildren didn't even know what Mounds Park was because it didn't exist. And unfortunately, those stories are all over the place where the finances and the budgets just cannot keep up. And so specifically to Mounds Park, I want to be sure that with these topics and these ideas that we really think about, what are our charitable intentions, and specifically for Mounds Park, in what ways can I be involved and help to give, even if I may not have enough cash flow or assets today to give away. What can I be thinking about as I go forward in terms of helping sustain Mounds Park? So in terms of growing the community, I think additional resources and an increased endowment will provide the ability to add diversity to our community, a diversity of students all across the Twin Cities area, pull in students from other areas of town that historically may not have had the chance to go to Mounds Park, creating a busing system, creating financial assistance for those that need it, right? I certainly don't want to see 100% of Mounds Park deriving from White Bear Lake and Matamidi and Stillwater, as those were sort of the common places when I was around. But as well, the funds and the donations go towards attracting and retaining first-class teachers and faculty, as well as providing educational resources and improving on our first-class facilities. Dramatic changes today at the facility than when I was there 16 years ago. And it's really cool to be able to get back and see. I certainly wish I had some of those facilities when I was there, but such is life. As I mentioned, the hope would be to strengthen the MPA endowment. This is really like the savings account for the institution, for the school, so that on into the future, the earnings on the endowment funds can help to, again, increase and sustain the needed spending for programs, for students, for teachers and faculty, as well as transform the MPA future and continue to build out the class sizes, continue to be able to provide first-class resources for the students. And then off of MPA, hopefully perpetuate an environment of family giving. So, as the school gets older, as our alumni age, we can sort of perpetuate a system of family giving back to Mounds Park and contribute towards what so many of us have received. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time, mostly surface level. I know there's plenty of questions and further discussion on some of these topics. Some of them can get fairly complex. So obviously specific tax and legal advice should be sought out by a professional. There are many different ideas, not all of which I will try to touch on, but I'm really going to get into how and when donors give from the current, so today, deferred gifts, so a gift being made down the road, as well as a couple of specific trust ideas around donor retained income gifts. So at a certain level of wealth, a donor can retain some income and have money for themselves, but also provide a gift, a donation to a charity, or in this case, Mounds Park. So as far as current gifts, what a current gift would be something today where you're providing the benefit to the school, you're making that donation. It can be made in a number of forms, some of which I have highlighted here, specifically cash, securities, real estate, or mineral interests. Some of you folks, maybe family in North Dakota, that might apply there. But the easiest way, probably most common, would just be cash. So, the annual fund to Mounds Park, typically a lot of cash gifts dollar for dollar, assuming you are itemizing your deductions on your tax return, which is, for single filers, that's maybe 12,000, 12,500. For a married couple, that's north of 25,000. When you're itemizing your deductions, you're able to get that dollar for dollar on your cash, as well as securities. So in this case, think of stock, shares of stock. Maybe you have some highly appreciated shares of Apple that you own from when it was worth $5, and now it's worth what is it, $400. And I don't have the price on me. I apologize. I didn't look today. But securities can be donated. So MPA can receive gifts in the form of stock. One of the benefits of doing that is, as I described, a highly appreciated stock has a large unrealized tax liability in it. Well, if you take that share of stock or shares of stock with the large unrealized gain in them and donate, you receive the full fair market value of the gift when it's received. So the current market value of the Apple shares, while avoiding forever the unrealized taxable gain that exists from when you owned it at $5. So a major tax benefit, while also accomplishing the donation to the school or any charitable organization, a 501c3. A charitable lead trust. So I'll get into a couple of different trust structures, but specifically a charitable lead trust would be a current gift where the charity is leading in terms of the gift. So you'd have an estate planning attorney create a trust, and the charity would be the lead of this trust and receive a payment stream, a donation stream for a set amount of years, where then after that term is up, the trust then reverts to the beneficiaries of that trust. And I'll get into the concept there a little bit later. A donor advised fund and private foundation. These are two of the more typical vehicles that I deal with, that my company deals with on a regular basis for individuals and families looking to be charitably inclined, as well as have a certain amount of wealth to give money away and have some tax benefit. So a donor advised fund is probably more common these days because of the flexibility that it provides and ease of setup. Private foundations have a bit more overhead and formation issues to get up and running, as well as moving forward. But with a donor advised fund, what you're essentially doing is setting up a sub account within a charitable organization, an entity, and placing assets into that donor advised fund. The part of donor advised funds that I really love is the ability to get the entire family involved in this case. So if you want to instill a legacy of family planning, gifting with your children, your parents, multiple generations, a donor advised fund allows you great tax benefits, as well as a vehicle that you can create the name, choose how much to contribute to it, as well as decide how and when you're going to give from that fund. So as an example, in an individual's high income year, so for a high income earner in a single year, maybe the sale of a business, or there's a liquidity event and it's going to be a high tax year. If I'm typically donating to charities, to 501c3s, over time, I might evaluate what that annual giving schedule looks like or has looked like, and take advantage of this high income year to set up a donor advised fund and what's called bunch your contributions into 1 year and get the full tax deduction for making those contributions. So if I gave $10,000 a year, I might say, well, I'm going to take 10 years worth of my giving, or $100,000, and take that 100,000, put it into the donor advised fund in this year, take the full tax deduction for this year, and then going forward, decide how and when I'm going to give those donations out from that donor advised fund. Again, family, children, parents can all be involved and a part of that process. So really makes a lot of sense for most people, as well with the stock donation concept that I described earlier. highly appreciated stock, highly appreciated securities would also be a preferred vehicle to put into the donor advised fund to make that $100,000 contribution. So again, you're getting the tax deduction as well as you're contributing $100,000 worth of stock that you might have a basis of $50,000 in or even less that you're completely avoiding from tax. So in the donor advised fund, you escape all of that unrealized taxation and are credited with the full market value of the gift on that date. Then, as we get down towards later years in life, so previously 70 and a half, and now, as of last year, 72, thanks to the Secure Act recently passed, 72 and a half, IRA, traditional IRA holders have what's called a required minimum distribution. And that is to say that each year after those dates, 70 and a half or now 72, you're required to distribute a certain amount of your IRA every year for the purpose of paying tax, which has been avoided all along the way while you were building up that IRA. So once you've hit that point, the IRS now allows you to take that RMD amount, required minimum distribution, and if you're charitably inclined, use your required minimum distribution to donate to the charity of your choice. So if I have a certain amount of income and I'm trying to watch how much income I have for the year and I want to stay below a certain tax bracket, but my IRA required minimum distribution would kick me up above that, I can then avoid receiving taxable income from my IRA RMD, assuming I don't need the cash, and take the full amount of that RMD and donate that to charity and receive zero taxable income off of that. Now that is subject to a $100,000 limit, but you get the idea. The other current gift would be a life insurance policy to ownership transfer. And that is basically saying, today I'm going to take this life insurance policy that I have that I no longer need or want and transfer the ownership of that insurance policy. And we'll talk about a couple other strategies around insurance policies, but this is taking the ownership of it and the benefit of it today and transferring that to the organization, to the charity. The next area would be deferred gifts. So whereas before, now we're making an intention, but we're going to be deferring our gift. And this is really kind of the central area of what I'm intending to cover for the Legacy Society in terms of estate planning at death. The options would be to leave a bequest under the will or a distribution under trust. So that is to say, in doing your will, you want to be sure and include an organization, a 501c3 charity, Mounds Park Academy, hopefully, as a designated beneficiary on your will or a designated beneficiary of your trust. And that can be directed as an outright single beneficiary. There are primary and there are contingent beneficiaries. So you could make it a portion, a percentage bequest, or a full bequest, or a partial bequest, or a residuary bequest. I know that's a lot at you. It's just about the amounts and the portions that are left to the institution. There is also a donor retained life estate in a residence or a farm. This is an awesome opportunity for those of you that have second homes or vacation homes or raw land, farmland somewhere, property on a farm, whatever that might be, your residence, assuming you don't have a need for your house beyond your life, you can set up an agreement, a contract, to essentially give away your residence, your property, your land, give it away to the organization, to the charity, to Mounds Park in this case, while still being able to live and retain the current benefits of the home or the farm. And so what would happen then is at death, the asset would then be transferred to the organization. The next would be the life insurance or commercial annuity, and this is by beneficiary designation. So as I mentioned before, rather than taking the ownership of the life insurance policy and immediately transferring it and irrevocably getting rid of it. The deferred gift concept would be to place the institution, the charity, as a beneficiary, sort of much like the bequest under will, a beneficiary of your life insurance policy. And you can do that as a 100% beneficiary, or if there are other beneficiaries that are in play, you can do a percentage, so half. And you can also do a contingent beneficiary if you want to, again, continue to maintain the flexibility, because it's a deferred gift, it's not a current gift, so you're not irrevocably getting rid of it. You still have the ability to change the beneficiaries before death. You have the control over how it's titled. So, and then same goes for retirement plans. So like the IRAs that I was describing, retirement plan flows outside of the probate court, which is an estate thing. The retirement plan flows to the beneficiary designations, which you elect, and so you can make that election now. You can change that election in the future, but that asset, that IRA, 401k, 403b, those retirement plan assets will flow outside of the court system and specifically to the beneficiary as you designate them, from primary beneficiary first in line to the contingent beneficiary there. So again, you're really talking about setting aside a future gift, which again, we certainly want to introduce you to the Legacy Society, and hopefully through some of these concepts, at least make you aware that we are actively looking for participation in the Legacy Society. If it's something you've thought about doing in the past and or have done but not made public, this would be the opportunity to get all the information you need to share that with the charity of your choice, or hopefully Mounts Park. The third is the donor retained income gift. And I'm really only going to talk about 3 here. And the first would be a charitable gift annuity. And so what we're doing here is we're basically coming into an agreement with a charity by where we're going to basically gift an asset, and in return, we're going to incur an income stream. So we still need some income to live on, but we want to be charitably inclined with an asset. And so through a charitable gift annuity, we can essentially make a gift, make the donation, receive the current tax deduction benefits in doing so, while also getting an income stream off of that gift. The next is the Charitable Remainder Annuity Trust and the Charitable Remainder Unit Trust. So a few slides ago, I talked about a charitable lead trust, and this is a charitable remainder trust. And the distinction there is that the charity leads in the previous example, and in this case, the charity is the remainder beneficiary. So with an annuity trust as well as a unit trust, the distinction would be that under an annuity, I'm receiving a fixed set of payments, so a fixed amount, whereas a unit trust, I'm taking my income stream based on an annual updated valuation, which would be a percentage. And I'll get into a visual here, which hopefully helps kind of explain. But basically, working with an estate planning attorney, as we would do, the attorney would be setting up a trust. And so the trust would be the vehicle in which the donor would be giving the asset. So in this case, I would be giving a highly appreciated asset to the trust because I want to try and keep that asset out of my estate for estate tax purposes. And so by placing it into the trust, I am irrevocably giving it away. Oops, excuse me. I'm irrevocably giving it away, but I'm also charitably inclined. And so I need the income. I'm setting up an income stream off of the asset, which I'm getting fair market value for at the time that I give it, even though it might have been worth much, much less when I initially received it. And in return for that income stream, I'm getting the tax deduction benefits of doing so. I'm getting an income stream. And then when that income stream is up, either by death or at the term that was set in the documents when I established the trust, the remaining asset in the trust goes to the charity of your choice. And so the same would go for the charitable remainder unit trust. So this is, if you see it, the CRAT or CRUT, the unit trust is the same concept. However, on the stream of payments, it's not a fixed amount. It's a bit of an inflation hedge whereby each year a new valuation of the asset provides my income stream as a percentage of the asset. And there's a number, it needs to be about at least 5% of the initial value and not more than 50. So I'll talk about some of the trust options. So when people are doing trusts, setting up trusts, the most common would be a living trust, right? And back to the beneficiary designations, a living trust is an entity that's established currently while living with beneficiaries associated to it. There are irrevocable trusts, specifically in this case, an irrevocable life insurance trust, which I'll get into in a minute. The charitable lead trust, which I described earlier. The charitable remainder trust, and then private foundations and supporting organizations. So to touch on irrevocable life insurance trusts briefly, and then I'll also come back to it with the charitable trust. The irrevocable life insurance trust can serve multiple purposes, but in this case specifically, we want to talk about why I would put insurance into an irrevocable trust. Well, the rationale, at least initially, would be for the purpose of estate taxes, because there's a certain amount at the federal and in some cases state. Minnesota does happen to have an estate tax. I believe it's around $3 million per person. And at the federal level, there it is 11.7 million, which is scheduled to sunset in 2025, end of 2025. So starting 2026, it is set to revert back to closer to 6 million as it was before. And so when you think about somebody's estate upon death, the house, investable assets, insurance policies, any and all of that included that would be a part of the taxable estate could potentially be exposed to estate taxes, which much higher than what we think of as regular, ordinary income tax rates or capital gains rates. And so if I do have a life insurance policy that, if paid out and included in my estate, would be subject to estate taxes, there may be an opportunity for me to take that asset out of my estate while still providing the beneficiary designations that I intended, such as my children or a charity of my choice. But to give you a bit of a visual breakdown here, what will happen is the grantor will take the insurance policy and set up a life insurance trust and take the insurance policy, place it in the trust. So now the owner of that insurance policy is the life insurance trust. You are irrevocably getting rid of your ownership interest and control over that policy and placing it into the trust. To be able to fund that insurance policy, it may need cash ongoing. So the grantor is able to take cash each year to pay the premiums of that policy by making a gift to the trust. At that point, there's a trigger to notify the beneficiaries, what's called crummy notice, at which point the trustee, who would not be the owner of the policy, the grantor, the trustee would then manage the premium payments to make sure the policy stays in force. Upon the death of the grantor, the insurance policy pays out, pays to the trust. I've now removed it from my estate. I'm not exposed to the estate taxes on that, and the proceeds of the policy are then directed based on the beneficiary designations, which could be my children, but it also could be the charitable organization. So now to the charitable lead trust. Again, charity leads here. Charity is not the remainder. This would be great for donating an asset that is an income producing asset. So what is going to be happening here is the donor is going to set up a charitable lead trust, and I take this income producing asset, place it into the trust, receive the tax benefits of giving away the asset, but still wanting to preserve some of the value of the asset for my beneficiaries as well as my charitable intentions. So I give the asset to the charitable lead trust, which in turn then first sets up a stream of payments to the charity, to the organization for a set period of time, at which point when that term is up, the remainder of the asset then flows outside of my estate to the beneficiaries, estate tax free. So in this case, I have a high net worth individual, a wealthy family, trying to minimize the amount of taxation that happens for my beneficiaries upon my death. This can be a great vehicle to take advantage of double tax benefits here by first getting the tax benefit of the donation, solving my charitable inclinations, as well as minimizing the estate tax upon death. So I've taken that asset and I have still left something to my beneficiaries while also solving the question of giving to charity. Now to the charitable remainder trust. So before I said income producing asset, in this case, I might use more of a highly appreciated asset. So I want to avoid the taxation that would otherwise happen if I sold that asset and realized the taxes on it. I'm going to, again, talk to a qualified estate planning attorney, presumably somebody that's got a team of people that have multiple disciplines and expertises. But I am setting up a charitable remainder trust with the idea that I still need some form of income. And so I take that asset and I irrevocably place it into the trust. I set up a schedule of payments to be paid to me, potentially up to 20 years, or my life, or my spouse's life as well, at which point when the term is up or when I die, the remainder of the asset in there goes to the charity. Once again, double beneficiary, taxation avoided, charitable inclinations accomplished. So, who benefits from all of this? Well, the donor, obviously. Hopefully, the charitable intentions and the tax savings are married through one or many of these strategies, as well as the donor's family. I've got there the family mission, vision, and values. And one thing that my family has done, as well as many other families that I've worked with in my professional life so far, is to set up a private foundation or set up a donor advised fund. And again, in doing so, not only are you able to take advantage of some current tax benefits as well as charitable giving intentions, but you're really able to create a vehicle whereby the family is all included and present in the mission, vision, and values. So building a sustainable formation for ongoing giving through multiple generations. As well as, obviously, the MPA community in this sense. If we can increase our contributions and our participation in the Legacy Society, the MPA community as a whole will benefit. Current students, current faculty and administrators, myself as alum, we would all benefit. As I said, I want to see the best for MPA moving forward long into the future. So that annual giving, the annual fund, that has, I think, an 82%, I wrote that down, 82% of current parents are currently giving to the annual fund, which is amazing. It's awesome. And please continue. But with some of these concepts and some of these ideas, hopefully it spurs a bit of thought around additional ways to give and or participate in something like the Legacy Society, where we can continue to grow and build Mounds Park long into the future. Some of the reasons that more donors don't use these techniques, really just education, and hopefully some of that comes through today, that um, you only know what you know, and if you don't have a team of advisors and people around you asking the questions, providing thought and ideas around your circumstances, and getting at the core of your family mission, vision, and values, they're just not talked about, and they're not widely broadcasted. It would take some digging and some energy to really get the right information for your situation. But people just don't know. They don't understand. Their advisors in some cases may not know. Like I said, I work with a team of people in many different disciplines, all working collectively on clients coming from different perspectives, which creates excellent thought and idea generation. And so, if there's a relationship where you're limited in the scope, and you're not having these conversations about multi-generational planning, it may not come up. So I think through education, collaboration, as well as in some cases patience, the donor's legacy here is what's important. But the donor can be an individual, the donor can be a family, the donor can be multiple generations of a family. But it will require some planning, and it certainly will require a team of people to get on board, because there's tax considerations, there's income and lifestyle considerations, as well as there's estate planning considerations. So
thank you, Ty. My name is Melissa Peacock. I'm the chair of the Plan Giving Committee for Mounds Park Academy. And I want to thank you, Ty, for all the things that you've given us for information to think about. It's a lot to consider, but what a wonderful way to start off the new year, being able to consider, what do I want my legacy to be? So I appreciate that. We're going to switch to doing some questions and answers. And so I have a question here from an alumni, Mike Galeen. What are some of the best ways for young alums to start implementing the giving process within their overall plan? How can they promote the culture of giving back within their community?
Well, I think first and foremost, it has to come from an attitude of giving, an attitude of appreciation. I know that early on, postgraduate, I found myself in conversations with fellow alum and peers who didn't seem to feel that accountability to giving back to the experience that they got from a place like Mounds Park, and really looked at it as a transactional relationship. So I think you have to connect to the cause. You have to connect to the school and be driven to want to help. It's not always just financial. As mentioned before, I take part in as many outreach programs and activities as I can, rather than just writing a check. But every dollar helps. And so whether you've got $5 or $500 at a young age that you can give, it all counts. It's all tax deductible, and so I would challenge anybody, all ages, to really look at the trade-offs and the benefits of what that deduction will do, or excuse me, what that donation will do, and not just from a tax standpoint. But it's got to start with an attitude of giving, really.
I completely agree. I've heard a number of young alums who have. When signing up they start a new job, and they have an insurance policy that comes with their job, that they've used that as a really nice way they know that their parents say wouldn't need the life insurance policy. Maybe they've not started a family, but that is a sort of starter of offering a charitable component that doesn't cost them any money at the time. They're just starting out, but it sets the tradition of identifying what's important to them. I have another question here from Christine. It says, what time of life would be best to think about creating a planned gift in my estate plans?
Right now. sorry. I do want to reinforce that some might be intimidated by the idea of creating a estate plan. I always talk to younger individuals, sometimes children of clients. Everybody should have an estate plan. Everybody, every adult should have an estate plan, should have a will, should have a power of attorney, a healthcare directive. And so as a part of that process, presumably you also might have a life insurance policy, you might have an IRA account, a 401k account. All of those assets can be transferred into some legacy vehicle. And so I would recommend everybody get an estate plan, simple or complex, immediately, because you don't know when you're going to go, and it's the only way that you can control your assets from the grave, right? And nobody should make that decision for you.
Thank you. I have another question from Ashley. As we age and income changes, how would you determine how much you can give on an annual basis?
How much excess income you have, how charitably inclined you are. I think, as I mentioned, there's lots of benefits to charitable giving. It really comes down to your specific situation. So first and foremost, get educated and get aware of what your financial planning needs and requirements are. How much of your income is excess income once you've sort of solved the savings buckets, whether that's retirement accounts or taxable accounts, maybe education accounts. When you go through each year and have extra income, extra savings, after accomplishing those things, which are very important, I would say all of your money's up for discussion. Just how much you need, right? We all need a different amount. We all make a different amount. So it's certainly a personal thing, but at the end of the day, there's lots of benefits immediately to implementing giving, regardless of your income.
So you covered quite a bit today, and if someone caught a nugget of something that they thought was great, but was the question I'm ad-libbing here is, I'll read it for you, is what are the best ways to continue to educate myself for giving benefits? So what would you suggest be the next step after you've offered us some opportunities here?
I mean, nowadays, that thing called Google, while not everything on the internet is to be fully trusted and taken at face value, you can sure find a lot of information, good information, on that Google search bar. Lots of books, journals, financial planning journals, asking a financial planning professional, certified financial planners, an estate planning attorney. I'm sure there's somebody in your network out there who is an attorney or knows an estate planning attorney, can provide resources. We certainly provide content to our clients, as well as in some cases to the public, on a very regular basis. So there's lots of websites and resources to begin with. But it's again really about understanding your own personal financial situation, and then start to, as you become comfortable with it, start to evaluate the additional options that might be coming your way.
Great. Well, this started the conversation today.
And reach out to Mounds Park and ask them what you can do. Ask them for the information.
We have one last question here. How do you advise clients on balancing inheritance to their family versus charitable gifts as a part of their estate plan? Is there a archetype client that tends to be the more charitably inclined?
I think again, everybody's situation is so different. Some of the smallest size clients can be some of the largest charitably inclined. Some of the largest clients, largest amounts of assets, may not care at all. What I would say is it really begins with kind of that family mission, vision, and values. It's learned over time. It is developed. And so by doing something as simple as opening up or creating a donor advised fund and including your family members as a part of that donor advised fund to make decisions on gifting, you can accomplish a couple of objectives around tax planning as well as charitable giving, but you can also instill a vehicle that provides community within the family around giving and start to look at what are the important causes, what are the important institutions that we value, where do we place that value, and so it really comes down to how that person has been trained to think about giving back. Some don't think about it at all and have all the money in the world. Some have very little and it's all they want to do. There's really not one profile, although I'm sure I could get into a few characteristics here and there. I apologize if I'm not.
Thank you so much, Ty. This has been wonderful. I hope it's given others something to think about, and the tying it all together with the family and passing those values on to your children seems very MPA-like, the dream big, do right. So thank you so much, and let us know if you have any questions. Please reach out to Mounds Park Academy, and we will hook you up with Ty or answer your questions. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.